Today's video in my notes was titled Recent Casualties of the Declutter Hungry Julia. I'm not sure if that's going to be the actual working title of the video. We'll see. Anyways, hey guys, it's Julia. Welcome back to my channel. So today's video is just going to be a little casual one talking about what I've decluttered recently. I'm sure most of my decluttering storm has been due to the fact that I've been home for 2 months, but also I've just felt the recent need to clear out things I'm not using anymore, pass things along if I can, throw things away if I must, but I really always try and avoid that, as well as the fact that I literally haven't really bought any makeup this year besides like 2 things. I've just been kind of enjoying rediscovering most of my collection again and really falling back in love with certain products, and that comes with, of course, getting rid of the things that I'm no longer in love with. So today I thought it would be fun to show you guys the recent casualties of my declutters, some of which I don't have anymore, so I will flash them on screen because they're already gone, but other things that I've just decided that I'm going to be passing along. Before we start the video, I want to thank the sponsor of today's video, which is ShopTagger. I've had the pleasure of working with ShopTagger for almost, I think, 2 years now. ShopTagger is an online browser extension that you can add for free to your browser, and it's so low effort to use. I use it every time I shop online, which has been quite a bit more often during quarantine. Basically how it works whenever you're shopping, if you come across an item that you really like and you want to save it to a list, you can just hit the ShopTagger button, it'll automatically save it to your wish list, and then it notifies you when either that item comes back in stock or the price goes down, which is amazing. ShopTagger also has a coupon function which has saved me so much money. Basically whenever you're at checkout, it'll just automatically try all these coupon codes for you, and I saved $150 on these shoes. But it works really well on beauty sites as well, and this is a tool that I use literally every time that I online shop, no matter where. Best of all, it's free, so you can use my link down below to try out ShopTagger for yourself. They have been a longtime partner here on my channel. I'm so thrilled to be working with them again. And because they're sponsoring today's video, this actually enables me to be able to donate all the AdSense money from today's video, so I'm very thankful to them for that. As always with all my declutters, anything that I bought myself and is in good enough condition to a point where I feel good enough to pass it along will usually be on my Poshmark. I don't sell my PR ever, and anything that is PR I usually pass along to friends who right now obviously I can't see, so I have a bin right now for products that are going to be sequestered to my friends later on. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Full details of this look should already be on Instagram. I am currently wearing my sunflower merch, but without further ado, let's go through my junk. So starting off with an eyeshadow palette that I honestly never thought I would ever get rid of, but I just recently did a video talking about if I had to declutter a palette from every single brand where I own multiple palettes, which one would I declutter? It was a very fun video. I went through the 10 brands where I own multiple palettes from that brand, and then I said which one I declutter. But in that video, I actually kind of talked myself into actually for real decluttering the palette. So I decluttered my Colourpop Good Sport palette. Basically, my rationale for decluttering it was what I said in the video. A, it was a discontinued palette, so I couldn't really talk about it on my channel as much as I would have liked to. B, I definitely feel like while I do love that color story and I love the grungy tones, I have other things like it in my collection. For example, I like using Subculture more often, or I like using the Melt Gemini palette. And C, I got that palette a while ago, and back then I really, really loved the way darker eye looks looked on me, and now it's not my favorite thing on myself. So for those reasons, I was like, you know what, maybe I should actually pass this palette along, not just in the hypothetical universe. It ended up being that there was actually really only one shade in that palette that was holding me back from decluttering it, but Colourpop's palettes are magnetic, which is like one of my favorite things about their palettes. So you're actually able to pop out the shades in their palettes and like swap them around. It really does not take a ton of work. From the Good Sport palette, the shade I want to keep was the shade Ebb, which is this beautiful lime green shade, and then I popped out a cranberry like shimmer shade called Nocturne in the I Love Sadahi Through My Eyes palette. I felt like Ebb looks really, really good with this palette in general, and I just feel like this, it fits into the palette. It would make me actually reach for the shade, and with that I felt like I was much more attached to this color scheme, which I still feel like is kind of similar to the Good Sport palette, and be able to pass along the actual Good Sport palette. So that one is already gone, and honestly, once I was able to take the one shade that I actually want to keep, I was able to look at the rest of the palette and be like, you know what? I've made my peace with this one. I really don't need to keep this one anymore. So that is like one of my favorite things about Colourpop's cardboard palettes in general, but I feel really, really good about that decision, and I'm much more inclined to use this palette more often. This is a decision I don't feel so great about. Not because I'm torn and that I like really actually love this product, but I'm passing it along, but it's that I've really not had this product for a very long time. It's expensive and it's actually like so beautiful to look at. So this is one of the Patrick Ta Monochrome Moment Velvet blushes, and I have the shade She's Sincere, which is this beautiful like very basic kind of peachy pink tone neutral blush. This is my ideal blush color, so there's really no reason that I shouldn't like this blush formula, but for me, I just feel like this is so mediocre. It's not my favorite formula. I feel like you don't really get a ton of color payoff, which for a blush, I wouldn't even want. Like, I don't want a super, super pigmented blush, but I also don't want something that's not going to show up on my cheeks straight up, and this, yeah. It looks basically brand new as well, so I figured instead of it sitting around in my collection taunting me, I could actually pass it along to somebody who wants it and could get an entire, like, life and use out of this product. I can appreciate these from afar. I love the rose gold packaging. This is just my aesthetic in a product, but it's not my formula. So I'm passing this one along, and I'm not gonna miss the reflective packaging. That's annoying. And I really don't see myself purchasing another shade from this blush formula, which is weird. I really love Patrick Ta's like entire branding and aesthetic, but I've really had a very hit and miss relationship with the products I've tried from his line, so. One of my recent quests has been decluttering and downsizing my entire concealer collection, and also my foundations, but mostly concealers, and I got it down to, I think, 10, which I'm pretty proud of. But during that process, I made the decision to let go of the Jouer Essential High Coverage Liquid Concealer. This is a product that I feel like was super, super hyped up for a very short period of time, and then dropped off the face of the earth. I remember, I think Nikki Tutorials and Kathleen Lights were both raving about this concealer, and I generally really like Kathleen's complexion recommendations. I feel like she has a very similar skin type to mine. I have the shade Lace. It's obviously a very like Tarte Shape Tape reminiscent packaging, just huge doe-footed applicator and amount of product. And then the formula itself, obviously it's a very full coverage concealer, and it was supposed to look just weightless and beautiful on the eyes, like a Tarte Shape Tape, but better. Maybe it was just the expectations and the hype that it was given that immediately doomed this one for me, but I really just didn't feel like it did anything special to my under eyes. Honestly, I kind of felt like it looked a little bit heavy on my under eyes, and then on my face for spot concealing, I just didn't love the way that it jived with most of my dewier foundations. I felt like it kind of dried down to be a little matte and a little bit crepey, which it's not supposed to by the claims. It's supposed to be creaseless, soft, matte, and have hyaluronic acid inside, so I was expecting this one to be like soft matte and look really nice and airbrushed on me, but it just looked concealery, which is not the vibe. So I'm passing this one along. I know a lot of people love this formula, but for me, it's not it. I also decluttered one of the most hyped up foundations of last year, the Pure 4-in-1 foundation that had like 100 shades in its shade range. The reason I ended up decluttering this one was for a very strange reason that you might not understand, but hear me out. It looked too perfect on my skin. This foundation was incredibly full coverage. It kind of reminded me a little bit of the Huda Beauty Faux Filter foundation. Both of those foundations are like straight up, like they will cover anything on your face. Which kind of made sense. It was a foundation and concealer in one, so obviously it was supposed to be a bit more of a high coverage foundation. Even if I used a very small amount, which today I use like half a pump of foundation on my entire face. I've really been loving recently like doing spot foundationing, which is a technique I got from Snitchery, where you really just use foundation on the places that you need it. I just felt like this one made my skin look fake. Flawless, but fake. It covered up literally everything, but it made my skin look like it was a mask. But it was almost kind of like an uncanny valley thing where even if I went on with like a dewy setting spray on top, I felt like my skin just looked so dimensionless and flat and just not good. It did look really nice on camera, but in real life, I just felt like it didn't look skin-like and good, and that's just really what I've been seeking from my foundations. So while I feel like this might be a formula for people who like that type of look, for me, that's just not what I look for in complexion products. So I ended up passing that foundation along, and I tried everything to make it work. I tried using less, I tried using more, but it really came down to the formula itself, which is weird because when I first tried it out, I really, really liked that finish on myself, but now I just feel like that's not where my journey is taking me. This one's probably going to be the most shocking decision of the video, but it's also something that I've kind of made peace with, so please don't talk me out of it. I recently realized that after decluttering my Pat McGrath palette, this had become my most expensive palette in my collection. I spent $120 putting this together. I did get a pretty good amount of use out of this one, especially when I was doing freelance makeup work in high school. This, I feel like, is a really great formula and great type of palette to have in the kit of somebody who's doing makeup. I have been neglecting my Sugar Pill singles, not because I don't love the formula, but because I just have a lot of other colorful eyeshadows in my collection. And honestly, for more artistic looks, I do prefer to reach for my James Charles palette. So I've decided that I wanted to sell this along to somebody, especially to like a makeup artist who's trying to build up their kit. I'm really proud overall of the color scheme that I curated here, and I just think this is a really great product to have in somebody's kit. So I'm obviously going to pass this one along at a very big loss. And I know I just recently talked about Taco in my whites video. This is a good decision that I won't regret. I would much rather this palette have a new life and get a ton of use out of somebody who really, really needs something like this in their kit, whereas I'm good without it. Am I good without it?
Oh. What are you...
Please don't talk me out of this. I've actually decluttered a lot of foundations recently. I now only have 13 full-size bottles, and I'm about to finish my Dior, and after that I will have 12, and I'm like, I might even declutter a little bit more than that, but right now I really genuinely love all the foundations that I have in my collection. That was my kind of main reason for decluttering the Fenty Beauty Pro Filtr Hydrating Foundation, was that I just didn't love it. For me, it was like a very meh formula. I didn't hate it, but I didn't really love the way it looked on my skin. I just definitely feel like the Anastasia Luminous foundation gives me that luminous, beautiful, hydrating effect, but it straight up just looks like my skin, but better. Fenty one I was keeping in my collection for a couple different reasons. I wanted to have a Fenty foundation in my collection for, I don't know, beauty guru reasons. Despite not even like loving every single product I've tried from Fenty, I do have a very strange like stan relationship with the brand, mostly just because of what they represent in the beauty community, so I wanted to keep the foundation because of that. Obviously, I spent money on it, so I was like, I do want to get some use out of this one, but I found myself just kind of feeling like I was forcing myself to reach for it when I don't want to feel like that with any makeup items I have. So I figured, again, why not pass it along to somebody who will actually end up using it and loving it, rather than forcing myself to finish up a product that I don't truly love. So I got rid of the Fenty Pro Filtr Hydrating Foundation, and honestly have not missed it, haven't even thought about it until I was planning out this video. I rarely ever declutter from my lip collection. I'm very attached to having a lot of options. We know this, that's why I have 4 different dating apps on my phone. So I'm very attached to my lip collection. I'm very attached to my Colourpop lip collection. But I decided to get rid of my Colourpop Ultra Glossy lips because I found a formula of gloss from Colourpop that is far superior, and that is the Luxe Glossy lips. The Luxe glosses, perfection. The Ultra Glossy lips are just a touch stickier to a point where it wouldn't bother somebody who doesn't like notice or isn't extremely picky with their gloss formulas, but for me it's just the slightest bit more cloying to wear on the lips, especially for a long time. I'm also not a huge fan of the applicators. I know some people prefer this kind of like smaller, more detailed brush tip. It's a little bit easier to like paint within the lines, but for me, I really love the Luxe Gloss formula and how they have this huge big doe-footed applicator. Kind of reminds me of the Fenty Beauty Gloss Bomb for that reason. And ever since I got the Luxe glosses, I've just been neglecting my Ultra Glossy lips. So figured, why not get rid of them? I just really have not been vibing with Kevyn Aucoin lately. Their new releases have really been not it, but I passed along the cult favorite product. I decided to get rid of my Kevyn Aucoin sculpting powder for many different reasons. Number one, I just really prefer the way that cream contour looks on me. I'm also trying to pan multiple different contours, one of which is a powder, which is the Nabla Gotham. That's a very densely pressed pan of contour. I feel like it's going to take me a very long time to go through that one. Whenever I do use like a powder contour, I want to use that one, whereas the Kevyn Aucoin sculpting powder, while it is very expensive, and I've always mocked it for having this tiny dinky little pan for such a huge amount of money, it's also a very deep pan and also very densely packed, so again, you don't really need a ton of product, and it's definitely going to be something that takes you a long time to go through. I didn't want to have 2 very similar, very dense, very hard to go through powder contours in my collection, especially when I'm trying to pan one of them. And then also, I just like cream contours better. I'm wearing the Anastasia Beverly Hills, I think it's Fawn, on my cheekbones right now. I just feel like cream contours look better. So I couldn't justify keeping the Kevyn Aucoin one, and I thought I was gonna miss it, but once it was out of my collection, once it was out of my sight, I was like, you know what? I feel nothing. But that might just be the lack of serotonin in my brain. Kind of in the same vein and same like spirit of the Fenty Beauty Hydrating Foundation, of just like decluttering foundations that I felt like I was forcing myself to use. Both of my Hourglass foundations. I was trying to pan the Vanish stick foundation that I'd had for literally the longest time ever. I don't like the formula of the Vanish stick foundation. I just don't generally like stick foundations on my face, even if they are geared towards more dry skin types. But the Vanish stick foundation, I felt like just really did not look good on any part of my skin except for my cheeks, and I don't want a foundation that only looks good on like this region of my face. And then the Vanish liquid foundation, I know most people hate that foundation. I preferred it over the Vanish stick foundation, so I kind of felt a responsibility to keep that foundation and defend it against the people who hate it. Like, I truly believe that the reason that I kept that foundation for so long, even though it was like just an okay foundation for me, was because it was okay, but most people thought it was awful, so I kind of felt the need to stan it. Yeah, and that's on bad decisions, love. So I got rid of both the stick foundation and the liquid foundation. I do still have the Vanish concealer. This I've been enjoying. I'm wearing it on my under eyes right now. Is it worth the splurge? No. Is anything from Hourglass worth the splurge? my channel has become kind of post-verbal at this point. I hope you guys enjoy it. Alright, last but not least on the list, this might not be shocking because I put it on palette probation in my recent eyeshadow palette collection declutter video, which was basically my stack of palettes where I was like, I'm kind of already mentally decommitted from you, but we're just gonna put you there in case I decide that I'm gonna regret it. Being put on palette probation is kind of a death sentence already, and I'm decluttering the Huda Beauty Desert Dusk palette. I love this palette. I've loved this palette for a long time, and I still do love and appreciate this palette for what it brought to my collection, but it no longer is something that's super unique in my collection. I was keeping it for these shimmers in here. I feel like these duochromes have been produced by so many different brands 11 times over. Plus, I do think that the shimmer formula in the new nude palette is even better, and I just don't really feel the need to keep this one, especially when I have so many other like warm toned, kind of pinky purpley toned palettes in my collection already. So this one, hate to see her go. I was gonna finish that with a joke, but my brain just short-circuited, so yeah. And that is it. That's all the stuff that I have recently decided to declutter. That's not everything that I've recently decided to declutter. There are a lot of like other smaller things that I felt like you guys probably would not care about, but these are like the main decisions that were a little bit more momentous. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed down below. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And I'm starting a new thing for people who have their bell turned on. So turn your notification bell on, comment down below that you have it on, and in every video I will do a shout out at the end of the video for the weekly Do Fairy. So if you want to be anointed Do Fairy of the week, turn your bell on. But today you guys are all Do Fairies, so if you made it to the very end of this video, you Do Fairies, you get the bonus meme. Love you. Bye.
And if you call me a simp, then make sure you take the P off the end. Umaga, umaga, shabisa vola.